Hey guys, welcome to the Morpheus Transformorph tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use Morpheus. Firstly, I want to show you where to find the content. So let's go ahead, have the Unreal Editor open, go to your content browser, go to View Options, and Show Plugin Content. You'll see the Morpheus content folder here, and then a subfolder which is actually where we keep all the blueprint classes and content at. We call this the Morpheus Transformorph content folder. So I'll just refer to this as the main folder for all of the content. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at this content. And the goal here is to create a actor, pawn, or character that can use the Morpheus system to customize its bone shape, altering its shape, and it can be applied to any skeletal mesh. So firstly, I want to open up the config pawn because we're going to copy some things out of here, but we're going to start from scratch and use this as a reference for some of the tougher parts of the creation. All right, so let's go ahead and right click new blueprint. We're going to select blueprint class. We're going to select pawn, and we're going to name this here Morpho. All right, let's open up Morpho. And the first thing I want to add to Morpho is a skeletal mesh component. Second, a Morpheus component. And third, a Morpheus manager component. All right. Now, one of the first things I want to do is go into the event graph, and we're going to set up some functions to initialize the Morpheus system. So firstly, let's set up the skeletal mesh reference before we do anything for Morpheus. All right. So drag out the Morpheus component, skeletal mesh set, bring in your skeletal mesh component, tie it in, and then up to the begin play. All right, now after the skeletal mesh is set, we want to take the Morpheus manager and we want to initialize the system. So firstly, we're going to initialize the GUI. And one of the things we need to do is bind the GUI initialized event dispatch to a function that will be called after the GUI is initialized. And we're going to assign that to a function, and we're going to call this function configuration initialized. And this function will be called after the GUI is initialized. And this is going to tie into another function by the Morpheus manager called configuration initialized. We'll just keep them the same name, keeps it easy to remember. All right, let's now drag off of that and call the Morpheus GUI initialize function. Event, excuse me. All right. Now, after the GUI is initialized, we want to initialize the Morpheus manager. So we're going to call configuration initialized. Let's compile and save. Okay, now we're going to set up the we're going to set up the skeletal mesh. But before I do that, I want to add a tag to the blueprint itself so that the Morpheus that it is going to use a GUI. In some cases, you don't need a GUI. You just want to load in a configuration. So this is a easy way for the system to identify what ponds need a GUI, which ones don't. So use Morpheus GUI is the tag. All right. Now we're going to set up the skeletal mesh. Now I'm going to go to my project content folder, and I've added the Infinity Blade Adversaries pack, available for free in the Unreal Marketplace. This has some decent characters. It also has biped and multi-ped characters. So one of my favorites is the spider boss, and I'm going to use a character, a skeletal mesh here in this example. So in the skeletal mesh, we're going to set that up for the spider boss skeletal mesh. Save. All right. So what we're going to need to do for the system to recognize the manager, we want to be able to use the Morpheus manager for level editing to do this. It's going to need to have collision set on that skeletal mesh so that it can detect it that you have selected. So what I want to do here is create a physics asset and assign it to the skeletal mesh. And that is how you apply collision to your skeletal meshes. And then I'm going to select the collision up for, in this case, we're just going to make block all. But the goal is, if you look at the presets, collision presets here, these settings, we want to make sure that we can block visibility so that the line trace detection and the Morpheus manager for level editing works. All right. Now what I want to do, just for organization, I am going to, in the content folder, the project's content folder, I'm going to create a separate folder so that we can put all our new content in it and have it in a single place. And this is going to be, let me name this to tutorial. Okay. And we kind of already created a few assets, so I'm going to go ahead and move those now into this folder. And I would actually say that asset is new. Normally I would just leave it here with the skeletal mesh, but just for keeping all the content, the new content in one location, I'm going to throw it into the tutorial folder. All right, let's hit save all so that we save everything. New level. Gonna just keep this an empty level. Well, actually, we're not done with the blueprint. So for Morpho, let's go in here. We need to set up the animation. This is an important part of the process because the Transformorph system works with an atom graph BP that applies transformations to all the bones in the skeletal mesh. and it is done in the animation BP. So let's set this up. And what we're going to need to do to set this up, we're going to need to do some retargeting. Inside of the Morpheus content, the blueprints subfolder, we have two anim BPs. One is the primary, can be used as a primary. I would expect you to have your own custom animation BP. And then there is a link animation BP that you will use to insert into your main animation BP to get your functionality for the system. So we will, it's real easy. We'll just simply select these two, right click, retarget, duplicate animation. We're going to name the prefix here Morpho so that we can quickly identify BPs. We're going to change the folder to our tutorial folder so that we put it all in the same place. Uncheck show only compatible skeletons because we want to use the spider skeleton, spider boss skeleton. Let's see. All right, and here is the greater spider boss skeleton, and then we click retarget. Here we go, our two new animations. All right, so I'm going to open up the link animation just to show you the C++ based animation node that is the core of the system. Here in your event graph is the setup, and the anim graph we are using the C++ based animation node part of the Morpheus. And by setting it up in a link animation, it just makes it more modular. You can move that around without having to change the structure of all of your primary animation BPs. And so I'm going to also open up the pose animation. This is just a basic pose that is using the link animation. So you select that to the link animation BP that matches the skeleton that you're using the animation for. In this case here, we're using our Morpho. Here listed in the asset browser are the animation sequences that are compatible with the skeleton. And just to make sure everything works, I'm going to drop one in. Compile. And make sure that the animation is functioning properly. All right, looks good. We're going to disconnect for now. Compile and save. All right, so back in our Morpheus pawn, we're going to set the animation blueprint for our primary animation blueprint, which is going to be the Morpho pose. Okay, now the viewport here. Oh, save. All right. So now back to our level. We're going to drop in a Morpheus manager for level editing back here in our blueprints content. What the Morpheus manager for level editing does is manages the GUIs for all the actors in the level that have a Morpheus manager component. All right, now we're going to drop in our Morpho pawn. Let's see where we're at. Let's move our player character back some so we have some room. All right, there we go. I expect this to all work. Let's go ahead and save this map so we don't lose anything. And we're just going to call this test map. Oh, that did not work. Hit enter. Okay, now we have our test map. All right, let's make sure we're set up for one player right now. We're not running in dedicated server. Hit play. Okay, we have our GUI. Let's make this full screen. All right, there we go. Now, as you can see, when we select with our mouse pointer, this is a function of the manager for level editing. All right, we're going to go ahead and use the Transmorph to shuffle the shape. And as you can see, we're altering the transforms of the bones to alter the shape. And you can manually do that as well. We're going to do that here. All right, that's the left knee. Let's see if we can find the right knee. And we can significantly alter the shape to change the skeletal mesh itself without having to add any kind of morph targets. And this is a quick way to do that, and the system works with any skeletal mesh. Okay, we're going to stop here. That's all we have for now, everyone. Thanks for watching. For immediate support or to get questions answered, please join our Discord channel, the link below. Also, hit the like button. That's very inspirational for us. Also, subscribe if you feel inclined. We will be posting new videos for support and talking about game dev in the future. Thanks again. Take care.